Hi, my name's Jeremy Verkowitz. This is a video on art, on autism, on scripting, on rehearsing, on mental illness, on bipolar disorder, creativity, support systems, and how all these things come together for me. The autism spectrum is very diverse, very wide. I say to people that if it's a spectrum, then literally everyone on Earth is on it because there's no end or beginning. If this was love on the spectrum, they'd say Jeremy's special interest is language. He likes movies and storytelling. He doesn't like clapping and audiences and car washes. So when we were making Sydney, I think I got to a point where I knew this was going to be a rehearsal of me to, comprehend my life and comprehend how to exercise my demons through art. Because I was really inspired by what I saw in Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal at the time. And it was the first time I learned about masking and all this stuff. And I kept thinking to myself, okay, if I'm going to be in this film as Jeremy, who's not me, but he's a version of me, he's a collage of so many masks I've put on because I learned that through chaos I could gain control. I decided I had to direct through my performance. Maybe I should tell you a little bit about what Sydney is, and that might give you some context. 3 friends, Jeremy, Kevin, and Sydney, are recording a scripted podcast written by Jeremy. There's references to all things, like Seinfeld. They all do a whole David Lynch sequence, which is more of a short film than a podcast itself. And as the film goes on, you realize that all of these people have extreme amounts of layers and masks that Jeremy is essentially putting upon them, putting upon themselves, putting upon himself, and trying to control everyone by making them be a specific performance or a specific person. And as time goes on, the ability for each character to maintain, the multiplicity of being multiple people at once comes undone, and everything sort of explodes at the end. I don't know if that makes sense. It's a very complicated thing to explain, but that's the best I got. It's a guy rehearsing. And I can't say too much without spoiling the film because it's one of those things. It's been called a slow burn, whatever you want to call it. But every scene reveals a little bit more until the end when everything comes just crashing down upon everyone. So the way I saw the set was, in my mind, I was like, okay, this story is akin to the type of story, metaphorically, that The Wizard of Oz is. So Sydney is Dorothy, There's even a dog, Barney, being discussed about who could be Toto. Kevin is probably the Tin Man looking for his heart, or maybe, the lion looking for his courage, or the scarecrow is looking for his brain, I think, but Kevin has a brain. And then, you've got these other characters who are these triplets of Tina, Trisha, and Patricia. And to me, they represent the witches, the witch of the East, the West, and Glinda. And then there's the character of Jeremy, and he's the tornado that makes the chaos of Oz occur. I think he wants to be the wizard, but if you know the Wizard of Oz, the wizard is powerless. So in the process of rehearsing my life and retelling life stories and blurring reality, and I end up coming across on the second day this story that is called The French Kid Story. It's a story I've been telling since I'm 13 years old, and I felt it should be part of the movie because I think I wanted to use art. I wanted to put it in the movie, and if it was in the movie, then I could release it from myself, keep it in the film, and move on, which has pretty much occurred. We did about 10 takes of The French Kid Story. I think I have a clip of it, actually, and Callie says, are we going to do that again? Callie played Sydney. Fantastic actress.
Are we doing this again? Mm-hmm. Can I give you a thought?
Yes.
So the way that you're delivering the monologue is extremely distressed. Is there value in trying it and when you do think it's funny? Like it's, no?
Sorry. You should give me you can do
You don't want to do a single take like that?
I'm just wondering because clearly, why would I ask you if you think it's funny? Because you literally look like you're gonna cry, and you say at the end, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
And I think she was okay doing that because on the first day, I could see how she was very concerned with the way I was behaving because I never told her I was going to be this tornado. The film was sort of pitched as a comedy for a long time, and I regret a little bit that I didn't give people more warning of how my character was going to behave because I became difficult to switch between the chaos of this character, me directing the set, trying to be like this right now, and then producing as well, maintaining. It was very difficult because, in the movie, I'm shifting up and down multiplicities, and on set, I was shifting other multiplicities. And other people jumped in. The actor who plays Kevin is actually my best friend, Kevin Waltz. And then, I had other great friends on set. Sean, the DP, is one of my great friends. Esteban, who helped out with art and was the DIT. My brother was on set. People I knew before. Nick Schoonover, who did sound, was on set. So I had a lot of familiar faces on set who had worked with me before and knew me as a friend as well. And I went and I looked at the footage. And because I was, acting, it was really the first time I'd truly watched a full scene. And I was like, oh, wow, what am I doing? I worked so hard to put this together. This can't just be pure expression. There needs to be an understanding of expression. It needs to be an understanding of myself. It also needs to be something that the other actors and the other crew members get something out of, because that's very important to me, that a movie is not just for me or for an audience if I think it's for an audience at all. For me, a movie is for the people making it. And if I was just going to be a tornado out of control, then no one was going to get anything but being pummeled down. So what I realized was that if I was being chaos, there needed to be harmony, and we all needed to want it to work. It couldn't just be me being chaos and no one wanting anything, and there being no harmony. So I came out and I said, look, we're going to change how we're doing everything. This is not, you may not respect this. You may not see this as how you do a set, but this is how it works now. I am still the director, but between each take, anyone can say anything. I trust all opinions. If someone wants to contribute, this is now a pure collaboration. Because I trusted enough people to know that I could still do what I wanted, but I needed to be open and I needed to listen and I needed to take in what people said. And so after that moment on the second day, the film became this balance of chaos and harmony and the want of getting it done. And it became, for me at least, a very beautiful experience. And it did help me work things out. And the rehearsal, I realized I can't do it alone, I needed, Callie and Kevin and the whole crew to work with me. This wasn't a one-man show. This isn't a Andy Kaufman, Tony Clifton comedy show. I think the most rewarding moment on set for me was that after all of the rehearsing I did, after all of the scripting, after all of the chaos, after all of the finding harmony, after all of the collaboration, we get to the final scene. And we're working together like, I felt like we were, a football team in the Super Bowl, just like cutting out plays, going back and forth, figuring it out. We get to the point where there's a moment with me and Callie, and I knew that I couldn't figure out myself anymore. I knew that I couldn't figure out myself anymore. And so I said, you've got to do this and I've got to react. I just totally trust you. And something happened that I will forever remember. I remember it was the second take and it was pretty much improvised based on all the experiences. It was pretty much improvised from all the experiences I had written and all the experiences of the past 4.5 days. And when I said something, it felt like all of the stuff that I was trying to comprehend, that I was trying to get through, that I was trying to rehearse, that I've been trying to script my whole life, just sort of out of my mouth and just left me. And that was because I trusted people and I gained their support and they trusted me. And it was like the rehearsal worked. Everything that I put in, I got out even more. And I eventually did, after the film was done, I got professionally tested for autism, and I do have it. I have a lot of trouble with social reciprocation, I guess you could say. My point is that as I was reflecting upon all of this, I started to think about how there really is no solution to mental health problems. There are things that can help. There's no solution to autism. There are things that can help. But the number one thing I can say can help, whether it was on a set or in life, is support. You know, when I look at, I think it's Sacha Baron Cohen's cousin, and he has this whole thing on pattern seekers, and he highlights, the different ways that autistic people seek out patterns and how it creates invention. And he often highlights the genius aspects of it. And I think it's amazing the things he's doing. But I always say to myself, why is he so fixated on the geniuses, the geniuses, the people that are doing extraordinary things? And I realize it's because he understands that if we can highlight these people who are genius inventors, things these people can do are extraordinary things I could never do. But if we can highlight them, and we can get them support to be able to explore their invention, explore their genius, then that support can spread throughout the whole spectrum. Other people's art, like Nathan Fielder's Rehearsal, or Tom Noonan's What Happened Was, or I guess things like Charlie Kaufman, or I suppose even Fellini, even though I don't watch him that much, and Bergman, and they allowed me to create art. And when I created art and did my own rehearsal and learned about myself, I was able to explore myself more and find out more. And I was able to learn who I am, why I am who I am, what that means. And I'm still trying to figure it out. I wanted to deny that I had bipolar disorder too when I got my autism diagnosis, but I just can't do that. I have both things going on, and that's how it is. And that's how it will be. All I really hope to communicate is that if there's nothing else we can do, we can be there for each other. And I feel like that's difficult because we live in a world where we need to provide for ourselves, and it's getting more difficult to provide for ourselves. But it was nice to see the rehearsal, the last episode, season 2, episode 5, where whatever Nathan has going on in his head, whatever he does, and I don't care, but it seems like he is really reaching out to people. And this isn't about like, oh, Nathan, thank you, you reached out to me. This is more like, I suppose it is a little bit, but it's more about how I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to make art. And I will have more opportunities, and no matter what happens, I can always tell a story some way. And for me, that's a beautiful thing.